From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt. Our colleague Noel is still on an adventure, but we'll be back soon.
They call me Ben. We're joined, as always, with our super producer, Dylan, the Tennessee pal, Fagan. Most importantly, folks, you are here. That makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. If you are listening to our strange news program, the evening it publishes, welcome to October 6th, 2025. We almost cribbed a page from our buddy Miles's book over on Daily Zeitgeist, where we check in with the national or international days that occur on the calendar. Matt, I don't know if you do that, but I do it every evening when I wake up. It's just such a cool way to learn about the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, last time we were doing this, which was yesterday, it's now October 1st and the government is shut down. We were recording yesterday and we noted it was International Podcasting Day when we recorded. What is today? Do you have one?
Oh yeah, man, we got tons. Not all are created equally, to be honest. This is the 279th day of the year. Some holidays you might recognize would be World Space Week.
Okay.
I'm working so hard to be positive. Space is so freaking cool. World Space Week here in the United States. It's German American Day, and we'll see why that's an interesting reference as this program continues. Also, shout out to Sri Lankan teachers. It is Teachers' Day in Sri Lanka. And again, shout out to Miles, who came up with that idea. It's just such a beautiful way to learn about the world. Matt, we're going to have a bit of a cognitive roller coaster because there are some things that have been on our mutual mind. We've been quite intense on some research, but I suggest before we get into the shenanigans, we give a shout out to Hershey.
Let's do it. Chocolate is one of those things that we know will bring us up. It will make us almost feel love if we consume it right.
And don't ask about how it gets made.
No. Especially the American-sold milk chocolate. Don't ask about any of that.
Oh yeah, don't ask about the factories or the labor involved.
And the farms, yeah. Well, what's in chocolate news today, Ben?
Oh, it's a big win for Hershey, Matt. Hershey. I'm just laughing because of the way an article is written that we clocked earlier. Thanks to the journalist Amy Peachy, writing over at CBS News. Hershey has won a suit, you guys, claiming its Reese's Halloween candies aren't spooky. And the first line, just going to read the first line here, quote, Hershey received a treat Friday when a judge dismissed a lawsuit claiming the company's Reese's candies tricked customers by depicting spooky Halloween designs on their packaging, while the unwrapped chocolates were, in fact, featureless.
Just kind of globs.
Just kind of peanut butter chocolate globs, like we were discussing a little bit off air. And Dylan, you came in with a hot take. You said that you're more a holiday chocolate guy.
Yeah, I feel like the Reese's that are shaped like different things have a better peanut butter to chocolate ratio, particularly the pumpkins.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I just had one the other day because they were finally on sale like 2 months ago, because you know how retail stores now put things out at least 2 or 3 months in advance. Mm-hmm. Got a single one, you guys. I never do that. I just picked one up, as you're going to check out.
Well, impulse buy, huh?
It was a good choice.
Yeah, especially getting the one instead of a huge pack, because now it's special, right?
Yeah.
It's not Christmas if it's every day. It's not a treat. That's just a thing that happens.
It's mostly removing temptation, because if I have a pack of even 2 or 3, I'm eating those.
Yeah, they're gone. Yeah. The technology has just come so far. It's hacking the mind. Also, it's always Halloween in America. We're going to get to some more lawsuits. We're going to get to some deep, strange philosophy. There's a meeting that we wanted to talk about as well, which we've both been very deep into. Before we do any of that, Matt, what about this? Let me pitch you on this. What if we pause for a word from our sponsors and then we get into a weirdly awesome heist?
Yeah, I like those. That'll make me feel better. Honestly, Ben, you have so much energy right now, and all I feel is malaise, and I don't know how to get out of it. So I need something fun, like a heist, I think.
Great. Well, don't count me I'm not a good example or sample size, Matt, because I'm functionally insane. But anyway, wash your sofa. Here's an ad. And we have returned. Okay, this is something I had never heard about. Apparently, the case has been going on for a while. But, true story, a Chinese national has pled guilty to Bitcoin fraud in what is believed to be, without caveat, the world's largest Bitcoin seizure. I had no idea this was happening, but there's a pickle to it. This is a 47-year-old Chinese woman who went to court over in the UK in London, and she confessed and pled guilty to running point in a multi-billion pound fraudulent Bitcoin scheme. Pound as in like pound sterling, the currency of that place. This is a Chinese businesswoman named Ximin Huan, who went by the name Yadi Zhang. She pleaded guilty, if you prefer, at the Southwark Crown Court to just a massive heist. Okay, so between 2014 to 2017, she had this large-scale fraud operation in China. They defrauded over 128,000 people to the tune of what we would say is approximately 1.7 million pounds sterling. That's what she was doing in China. The question is, as happens with so many crimes in that part of the world, how do you move the money out, right? How do you wash the money? She did something really smart. She stored the winnings from her heist and her frauds in Bitcoin. And because of the time in which she did this, 2014 to 2017, it actually worked like an investment, and she made way more money than she stole.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean,
that makes sense. If only all of us listening right now in around those years would have thought to take that extra $20, extra $100 and just start, just to buy one Bitcoin. I know. Back then.
I remember, dude, we were hanging out. Our office was still in Buckhead, I want to say. And we were, our pal, a dear friend of the show, Casey Pegram, who was longtime producer of Ridiculous History and Stuff You Missed in History Class. I think he actually got Bitcoin and then used it to buy a pizza or something. And he's quite an erudite dude. And I remember one time he told me, it's one of my top 4 regrets.
Yeah. To my recollection, it was at the other office, the Ponce.
Okay. It was at the Ponce one. Okay.
But it was like right as we moved in, and it was right when Bitcoin was having its first big whatever push. That's it. But I genuinely don't know.
Well, Casey's an early adopter, if nothing else, so I may be misrecalling the timeline here, but the timeline for our buddy Zhang is pretty clear according to the courts. So she has to get the money out of China. She also uses false traveling paperwork to flee China and to enter the United Kingdom. And then in September 2018, she's got all this money. I got all this dirty money I need to wash, right? So she attempts to do it with one of the tried and true things, purchasing a bunch of property. This makes it one of the world's largest cryptocurrency crime cases that we know of so far. And people say, I was thinking about this earlier. I don't want to spoil like a song I'm working on, but people say crime doesn't pay. If crime doesn't pay, then why does crime rise when things get pricey? You know what I mean?
I don't know. Because I guess you get short-term gains, long-term prison sentences.
Right. You got to roll the dice. Right now, from what we understand, the ultimate worth of the Bitcoin method here is now around 5.5 billion pounds sterling. And this has been seized by the government. So what happens to all the extra money? Even if this person paid tons of money back to the victims of the scheme and added interest, it would be something like, sorry, you were scammed 10,000 in 2017. Now you get $32 million. Even if that happened, this person would still have billions of dollars left over. Because that's the difference between $1 billion and $1 million, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think's going to happen? You think London will just keep it?
Why not? No, I mean, they should give it back to the people that it was stolen from. Come on.
And the extra stuff? So
I mean, they should give them a VIG, right?
A vigorous, yeah. But at that point, are you still a victim of a crime, or are you just a non-consensual investor who won big?
You're a winner of a very dark lottery.
You're a winner of a very dark lottery. That's a great setup for some other stuff that's been on our minds. Matt, we were talking about just sort of round robining or ping pong and back and forth with some shorter stories. What do you got? What do you got before we get to the big ones? Yeah?
I got one.
All right.
Two things. It intersects two things we've talked about a lot. Drones and energy weapons.
Yeah.
Check it out. This is a really cool thing. This isn't really news. This is something that was announced way back in September 10th by the company involved as a press release. Inside that press release, there's a video of a demonstration. And now, on September 28th, it's being written about by Mark Tyson over at Tom's Hardware.
I like Tom's Hardware. It's a great source, actually.
Me too. Check this out. It just sounds amazing, and it seems like a really important weapon or defensive weapon to have if you're, let's say, a city, an army, anyone important. It actually feels like I'm down with this weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Let me explain why.
Mm-hmm.
There's this, quote, U.S. electronics warfare specialist company called Epirus, I think. E-P-I-R-U-S.
Mm-hmm.
Epirus? I don't know how they say it. I haven't looked at a pronunciation.
Tomato.
They've got a series of weapons that are energy weapons, high-powered microwave weapons. The flagship of those is called Leonidas, which is just fun to say.
Mm-hmm.
This Leonidas thing is kind of like a turret, but instead of bullets, it shoots high-powered microwave energy beams.
Tight.
What it can do is disable flying swarms of drones. It, quote, delivers weaponized electromagnetic interference to counter swarms of robotic asymmetric threats. The cool thing about this, in their demo, they put up 61 drones, a swarm, if you will, of drones into the sky. This thing aimed its turret at those drones, turned it, fired whatever it fires, the high-powered microwaves, and all 61 of those drones, you just watch them disable and drop from the sky. Yep, just all the way down.
Ooh, I like that sound effect.
Well, you just imagine that sound effect in all the movies where the EMP goes off.
Things are powering down.
Yeah, it looks like that. So then you imagine, at least I certainly imagine, all of the drone warfare that's been happening specifically in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, where these swarms of drones will be flying sometimes on other countries' airspaces, just flying right over, and then they will attack, like explode. They will sometimes fly near flotillas, let's say, that are heading towards Gaza, that have people that we know on them. There are these specific weaponized drones, the small-bodied drones that have explosives on them. They're terrifying. And if there are a lot of them, and you have one of these Leonidas weapons, theoretically, you can just shoot them out of the sky. It looks as though there's a sweeping action that it can take, and it can take out multiple swarms at once coming from different directions. Just a very, I was going to say cool weapon, but it's a weapon that seems to be extremely effective against a new threat.
Yeah, because the arm race never stops, right? And one note we want to give you folks to really paint the picture. When we're saying it has a turret, what we mean, it's not like a gun. It's not like a cylindrical thing. It looks a lot more like a big rectangular metal plate.
Yes. And the only reason I'm thinking about it as a turret is that you face it one way, and that's where the energy actually emits, right? It doesn't emit in a 360 fashion. They make a small one that is meant to be attached to another drone, and it is very directional, like
cool.
more so like, again, I just think about a gun because it is shooting this wave in one direction. This one, you can fly a drone towards another swarm of drones or oncoming swarms of drones and just shoot this thing at it, and all of those drones just will fall out of the sky. And it's not like they're temporarily disabled. Or maybe they are, but I think they're out of commission.
Just straight up fried, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would make sense if we're talking HPM. Also, I had a suspicion. We're very into the provenance of names. I had a suspicion, and I looked it up, and I feel so pretentious, man. Yes, Leonidas is named after the king of Sparta.
Yeah, dude.
Who, probably because he fought a successful campaign while outnumbered.
Yes, precisely. Wow, I didn't realize that, but that makes so much sense. I'm just thinking about the movie 300 now. All of those men, all their muscles.
Oh no, I saw some internet ephemera earlier with a real life Sparta kick.
Yeah.
And they look so cool, but I'm not sure how I feel about the context. Apparently it was a elderly lady on public transit, maybe
Sparta kicking somebody?
Maybe in China. No, she got Sparta kicked.
Oh.
She was asking, there was an argument ensuing, and there was another lady, a younger lady, sitting in those seats reserved for special needs people and for the elderly and the pregnant. And whatever ensued, this older woman, very much a grandma, she started pushing on this other person and then hitting them with her bag. And the younger lady stood up and Sparta kicked her across the train.
Wow.
See, I think I'm only bringing this up because I believe it's an interesting comparison to the moment ago where you said, I don't know if I want to say this is cool. That's how I felt watching the Sparta kick. You know what I mean? Because Sparta kicks do look cool, but that is an elderly woman.
Yeah. It's really just a push kick too. It's not even that effective in causing damage, but when you push someone, the damage ends up happening when you run into something else.
Yeah, the damage happens when you land.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, on spikes or in an endless pit or wherever you happen to.
On the other side of the train car into a baffled salaryman. We know that that drones have fundamentally changed war, and I like your note about the expansion of both defensive and offensive capabilities, because as we are recording, mystery drones are just riddling the airspace of Europe, expanding westward.
Oh, yeah. It should also be noted that this drone technology is one of the most viable ways to fight against, let's say, an oppressive government or, a large actual army when you are a resistance force. And knowing that there is a weapon out there, or probably multiple, because this is just one weapons manufacturer, right? Anytime there's a government contract offered for a specific type of weapon or a weapon capability, then you've got multiple companies developing those, attempting to get those grants and those, what do you call those? Just the
contracts.
Money?
Yeah, trying to get a successful bid in.
Yes. So it's not the only one, but just knowing that they're out there, it's a really good, really potentially bad thing. It's just, it feels like everything nowadays is potentially a win, or just that's going to be a fail very, very soon, like a bad human thing.
Oh, yeah. Like television. I still don't think humans are ready for television. It just came out way too early. I probably shouldn't say that because we make our living doing podcasts, but this, I don't know if humans were ever ready for the information age. We know this arms race, this back and forth, can run the risk of becoming a circular call and response kind of thing, right? The EU has proposed building a drone wall to protect their institution from Russian drones, because airspace intrusions quite recently resulted in the closure of Danish airports. Anti-drone systems are a huge investment for the EU, well, for pretty much everybody. And we know that there are unexplained instances of drone activity just going across that part of the world. I'm thinking in particular of the recent sightings over northern Germany. these mystery drones were over critical infrastructure, and the world of drones, the pantheon of drones, has evolved so quickly. You know, it's such an umbrella word too. It could be anything like a Reaper to a little quadcopter you bought on Amazon. So saying something is a drone, I don't know how helpful that is. But if you can take the Leonidas and just knock anything out of the sky, then that makes the problem much more simple. Until somebody evolves the Leonidas killer, which is naturally going to happen.
Well, yeah. And it's one of those weapon systems that you can mount on pretty much any vehicle that has the space for what would be like turret action or a turnable big rectangle.
Exactly, which was the original name until somebody read a little bit of history about Sparta. Also, Sparta is so weird, man. Not just the film, but the actual place. Film's good, though. Story for a different day. Do we want, before we go to our next break, do we want to wish good luck to the people of the United States as the U.S. government shuts down?
That's probably a good idea.
All right. Good luck, everyone.
Yep. Good luck. No, we're fine. We're fine. It only happened for 34 days last time.
Yeah. But that was the longest time on record.
Yeah.
And so we'll see how long this one goes. Ultimately, look, government shutdown, the concept is going to be familiar to some of us who lived through previous eras and administrations in the United States. But the pickle of it is, this is weaponizing bureaucracy. Every time it's happened, it throws things into a chaotic state that's really not good for the nation, because it means thousands of government employees will get furloughed. A furlough is when you can't go to work, you're not fired, can't go to work, and you don't get paid.
Yeah. Doesn't seem great, especially for, most human beings who live close to paycheck, if not so.
Which is most human beings.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like 800,000 people. 800,000 people were furloughed last time.
Mm-hmm. And the CBO, Congressional Budget Office, says about 750,000 employees will be furloughed each day. But good news, folks, if you're worried about Congress, they're fine. They don't get furloughed.
Yeah.
The president still gets a salary.
Oh, that's nice.
The people in charge of shutting this thing down are not affected by the consequences of that decision.
You're saying the senators and the representatives still get paid?
At least until re-election time comes up, man. We don't know how long this one will go. And if you yourself are a federal employee, or if you are a teacher, an educator, if you work in the armed forces, you may remember last time. It's a very scary thing for people to have to explain to their families.
Yeah. That was 2018 last time, right?
Yes. Yeah, that was 2018 and went on till early 2019.
Man, it's just, if you go online, depending on your source, you will see the direct messaging from either side of the so-called aisle there, where just fingers get pointed. It's your fault we're doing this. It's your fault we're doing this. Those guys are doing this. Those guys are radical leftists. Those guys are fascists.
Why do you keep making me hit you?
Yeah. It's just, I think that's why I feel the way I feel today, mostly. Because it is such, and it has been such stark division in just human beings, and this somehow out there concept that we could work together and maybe collectively decide that there's some cool things we can do for each other, and it just goes out the window. And I know everybody out there feels that and knows that, but we're stuck in these, I was going to say, like, brainwashing channels somehow, where there's just I don't know, man. I know a lot of us can see all of it in a bigger picture. It's just, it doesn't feel like any of the messaging that gets to us, if you're just reading the news or watching television or something, none of those moderate messages of let's work together really cut through, because the other stuff is so vitriolic and angry and makes you want to comment on it.
Yeah, and it's exacerbated by the information age and ubiquitous, always on social media. It's a hack of a very old human process, a cognitive process and tendency that indeed predates the modern Homo sapien, tribalism. The us versus them. It's a very powerful social meat to sip for people since the beginning of tribes. And we know that, well, to get into the brass tacks, let me step away from the philosophy and all the nerdy stuff. The brass tacks of it are this. There's a huge clash that's been ongoing. Specifically, the one that we believe resulted in this shutdown was that the Democratic side of Congress and U.S. polity is demanding an extension of healthcare funding because the subsidies that were made during a previous administration, the Barack Obama administration, are set to expire. So people's healthcare, people who are in that plan, their premiums will skyrocket at the end of the year. And then they also put in a bid where they said, we need something in writing, assurances that the current president won't continue to unilaterally withhold spending that Congress already agreed on. So everybody in Congress, by hook or by crook, whether they loved it or not, they reached a compromise and they said, okay, we're going to spend X on Y. And the issue, at least coming from the Democratic side, is that they believe the current presidential administration sees what Congress does, and if it's politically advantageous to them, they just pretend it never happened.
Yeah.
And they say, no, don't do it.
I was sent something this morning. It was, where is it? Here we go. It's from The Guardian. It's about several federal agencies that sent out official memos regarding the shutdown. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those where you could see from several of the major agencies that it was copy and paste job, or, a memo that was sent to those agencies to send out. Yeah. As like, here's why everything's happening.
And here's the language to use. Yeah, mm-hmm. I saw those.
And it's interesting how these, official federal agencies within those messages blame, I guess Democrats as like, that's why this is happening. And then to have federal agencies that are neither Republican or Democrat state something like that, it goes back to this thing called the Hatch Act, which is supposed to limit the political activities, politics within these government agencies and government positions. So then now there's going to be a whole fight about that. And what did that mean? And lawsuits and just more division.
Yeah. And can these agencies function if they lose the ability to be apolitical? I'm thinking in particular, I want to give you guys know I'm super into aviation for some side missions. And I want to give a shout out to the long-suffering folks at the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. Why are we shouting out the FAA specifically, or why am I doing that? It's because a partial government shutdown is going to put a lot of pressure on a very unsafe infrastructure at the moment, or a very struggling infrastructure. Air traffic controllers, security officers. The ATC is a really interesting case going all the way back to the 80s, right, when it was made illegal for those guys to go on strike. So they are going to be forced to work without pay because the planes don't stop. And when you create a situation like that, you massively increase the likelihood of something going wrong in the sky. Or, Sparta-kick style, going wrong when you try to land.
Oh, that's probably the worst part of it. Yeah. Makes you want to get on a plane in a week? I'd love to just get on a plane in about a week's time. Fly somewhere.
I love it. I love planes.
We could fly to Miami where we embark on a cruise, a true crime cruise.
Well, however we get there, separately or together, whether by horseback or traveling through shadows and mirrors at night or hopping a plane.
You can ride a horse from Atlanta to Miami? That's crazy.
You gotta know the right horse. You gotta know a cool horse, a real Shadowfax kind of horse. So as you're hearing this, October 6th, we are at the end of the week embarking on a crazy journey into international waters. We're all very excited about that. Dylan will be joining us, as well as, of course, Noel and several other podcasting colleagues. So from the 10th through the 15th, we're on a true crime cruise. We're doing a live show about the Bermuda Triangle from the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
Assuming the world continues through October.
Yeah. And if it doesn't, why not head out to your local supermarket and pick up some Margaret Holmes diced rutabagas? Real Southern style. We're not sponsored by them. Just you can get diced rutabagas in your canned goods section. It's important to know.
Right. This is the breaking news. And with that, you may wonder, folks, why I'm saying cryptic things like assuming the world continues through October. Before we pause for a word from our sponsor, we and many of our fellow conspiracy realists, including some people directly involved, have been intensely interested and concerned with a big, weird meeting that took place quite recently. So how about we pause for a word from our sponsors, and then we dive in to Pete Hegseth and how he absolutely bombed his stand-up set in front of the world's most dangerous military.
Okay. And we've returned. I suppose let's begin towards the beginning, Ben, because we have been talking about this off air for a long time and doing little mentions on air. Let's jump to AP News, September 25th, 2025. Hegseth abruptly summons top military commanders to a meeting in Virginia next week, and that is Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, or is it War Secretary Pete Hegseth? I guess it's still Defense Secretary. This was announced in the news as some kind of memo, right? Hey, just so everybody knows in the world, all of the top military commanders are going to be meeting in a place so the defense secretary can give a speech to them. Ben, it hit me in a certain way as, just full on been a civilian, had civilian life my entire life. I understand it to some certain extent because of other people I know who have been in the military. I don't understand maybe the full potential ramifications of having all of those people in one room at one time.
Yeah. As you recall, one of the first things I said, maybe I should have made that a priority, but one of the first things I said was how incredibly cartoonishly unprofessional is this? We're all going to be here at this spot. We're giving you a week's notice. Anybody who's mad at the U.S. Military infrastructure, the OPSEC was just missing. It was performative. And as we'll see as we continue in this part of Strange News, we'll see that indeed being performative, the appearance, the aesthetic of power was just as important to these folks as the exercise of power actual. And that's a big red flag for authoritarianism just throughout the world. In any case, there's a
flexing because you can.
Flexing because you can, flexing publicly so that your audience, the public, the hoi polloi, see what is happening. That's why we have those big parades with all the toys that we problematically think are very cool, if evil. And that's why you see public dressing downs in dictatorships, in the stands, or in the case in China recently, very much still an authoritarian place, where a guy got sentenced to death publicly for taking bribes. Not even that much, like 38 million.
Oh, well,
which is weird that we have to say it that way, but
that seems like a lot.
Well, it's a lot to entities like us. There's a guy in the U.S. recently that he got his hand slapped because he took a bag with 50,000 in it. Yeah, a brown paper bag with 50K. Yeah. And he was like, what is this? Why is this a problem? You don't know me. You don't know what I do outside of work.
Sometimes I carry around a brown paper bag that has $50,000 in it. That's just what I do.
It's loose diamonds all over again. You know what I mean? Sometimes you need a bag of diamonds. I don't know why everybody's being so weird about this.
Well, in this case of this meeting.
Yes, this meeting.
The timing feels weird for somebody who might be a little conspiracy theory minded, pointing at myself, somebody who, is in the news space looking for connections, right? You see that there's a looming government shutdown on the way. Then you see, oh, wait, the defense secretary is getting all of the military commanders together. That feels a little weird. There's all these tensions happening, considering Victory Day that we talked about and just mentioned again here in China with all of the heads of all these other countries.
Proposed invasions of domestic U.S. cities, which is in violation of a lot of stuff that the country worked on for a couple centuries now.
Yeah. So you're seeing all these things happen, and then this meeting gets announced. My brain just exploded a little bit, and I was just going, oh, this is it. This is the thing. This is where something really big is going down. Whether it's going to be one of these fabled false flag attacks that we know are real, but also things are accused as false flags when they're not, but then they're also real ones.
Shout out Gulf of Tonkin. Yeah. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop, indeed. But in this case, they're at least heading to Quantico, or the Marine Corps base there in Quantico. If you've kept up with any kind of popular media when it comes to the FBI, there's so many shows out there now, Quantico is often referenced because this is the place, or FBI Quantico is the place where everybody goes. All the new recruits, everybody heads on over there to do their onboarding, their training, all kinds of stuff like that. You always hear about Quantico. Well, there's also a Marine Corps base there, and that's where they're heading. So you imagine, at least, again, as a layperson here, you imagine that place has got to be crazy secure. It would have to be a high-level operation if anything nefarious was going to happen at this meeting, right? That isn't just the meeting. So then, and I'm only speaking personally here because I'm just kind of describing what my process of thinking through all this stuff and just sitting alone in my house going, oh, what could this mean? Then you imagine, well, what could the messaging be that ends up coming out at that meeting? And that's when we have to jump forward a little bit in time. Because yesterday, as we were recording on the 30th, just before that, the speeches were made, right? And we maybe mentioned it a little bit in that episode. I'm hesitant to get into the politics of what it means, but maybe just some of the direct quoting and some of the statements that were made in front of these established, esteemed military commanders. We should at least talk about it a little bit.
For sure.
So you can go to The Guardian. That's one of a good place that I found that has kind of a breakdown of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's speech. I'm trying so hard to be objective and take like personal beliefs out of this, but some of it just feels wrong. But you just have to, we'll just state it. Okay. You can head on over to The Guardian and you can find something. Well, I'll just give you the title. No More Woke in the U.S. Military, Key Takeaways from Pete Hegseth's Speech. You can read that. It was posted on the 30th of September. Gives you key takeaways. What I got from this, Ben, is that the defense secretary wants the military to be very samey. He wants troops to look the same. He wants troops to be able to do the same kinds of things, going so far as talking about making sure everyone is clean shaven and no more beards are allowed. They have to be physically fit to a certain extent or they're no longer wanted.
Yeah, I also clocked the idea of fat soldiers and fat generals per Hegseth's. Again, I'm calling it stand-up. Folks, I personally, it looked like a stand-up comic bombing. People weren't vibing. The attempt was performative, and especially, look, if flag officers and up, like the guys with the stars on their epaulets, they don't really mess around. You know what I mean? And they're like, of course, they're duty bound by the Constitution, but I think it's safe to say they were rightly aggravated as guys who always have to fight over budgets. They were rightly aggravated about the expense. This is the macro version of, could this have been an email?
Yes. Because we were talking about millions of dollars to get all of these one-star or up generals and their advisors to Quantico to have this meeting, to have a former Fox News host get up there and, as you said, do a stand-up show for them in a what seems like, hey, guys, we're all in this together. But also, if you don't like what I'm saying, you need to leave and just retire because this is how it's going to be from now on.
Remember, I kept comparing it to a Red Wedding last time we talked about this from Game of Thrones, which is adapted from Song of Ice and Fire. Check out the books.
Yes. I'll give you one direct quote from Pete Hegseth from this shindig. Quote, "The sooner we have the right people, the sooner we can advance the right policies. But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. We will thank you for your service."
And I can't remember which recent recording we mentioned that specific quotation on, but
I think it was yesterday.
As the White Stripes say, it bears repeating, because what we're seeing here is still a modicum of civic behavior, a fig leaf. Folks at that, if you're unfamiliar, and I know a lot of us in the audience intimately know about this kind of surreal dog and pony show, at that level of the military, at that level indeed of a lot of private industry, it's a bad look to say you're firing someone in the military, especially unless they've committed a crime, right? Or unless you've successfully smeared their character. Instead, what you do is sort of volunteer people to resign. And that way, it looks like the onus of the decision was on them and not upon the system. And that's a huge structural point. So we see, I think, Hegseth pushing really hard for that, or whomever told him to do this performance really wanted that to be a takeaway. Also, the notion of increasing lethality and being less concerned about avoiding casualties. That's incredibly troubling.
Oh, yeah. Just considering the current deployments of U.S. troops on the National Guard level to U.S. cities to police those cities, right? And then there are more cities on the way. Think Portland, troops are being deployed to Portland right now as we are recording this, and they will get there by the time you hear this.
And they don't want to be there, by the way.
No.
At least the ones I know are like this. It's like, what was that deployment to DC? Yeah. Where these guys, again, we have to make this point when we mention this stuff. I don't want to put my personal opinion in it. I'm just an entity. I wake up at sunset and put my skin on one leg at a time like everybody else, But
me, I do that too, of course.
But with that, we want to give you the facts and the analysis here, and we want to exercise empathy for the people who are being subjected to these deployments and the people who are being deployed. It's not like they can realistically say, screw you, I'm staying home. Instead, a lot of these guys are saying, man, this is a terrible day at the job, Well,
of course.
I don't want to treat my fellow Americans as enemies.
Of course. Which brings us to, I think, the real reason this whole meeting was called and why they got all the people together. Because immediately following Pete Hegseth's thing, the President of the United States got on stage and talked for about an hour. Mm-hmm. And this is where, Ben, can you give us a quick catchphrase?
Sure. Here's where it gets crazy. Stuff they don't want you to know presents The Enemy Within.
Yes.
Within.
Yes. Within. There was a lot of stuff talked about by the president on the stage during this meeting. My key takeaway and the notes that I took as I was watching it in real time had to do with what the people in that room, what their mission was going to be. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean it would be the entirety of their mission. It means that it is the desire of the current administration that this be a part of it. And here are some direct quotes. I was watching The Guardian. They were doing a live posting at the same time I'm watching the thing. And they're catching the things that, you and I would be catching. And it just started making the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Because the president said, quote, "We are under invasion from within. No different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms."
Right.
He said that, quote, "Straightening out U.S. cities will be a major part for some of the people in this room." Again, talking to all these generals and advisors. Quote, "And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war too. That's a war from within." Here's the last one. This is the quote that really, this is the hair on the back of the neck thing. Quote, "I told Pete," talking about Pete Hegseth, "we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military, because we're going into Chicago very soon." And the tone and tenor going into it and speaking about it as though it would be normal and totally fine to just be sending U.S. military into U.S. cities to control them and to stop whatever it is that is seen as undesirable.
Yeah, I don't think undesirable is a bad word in that case. I feel like that's fairly accurate because there's a narrative war going on, portraying these cities as lawless and permeated with violence, crime. This narrative has a distinct disadvantage because it does not match any quantitative data, any quantitative data.
Hey.
The stats just aren't there to support the claims. And there is one, I'm not going to jump back and forth here on this stuff, but objectively, in my opinion, does not matter on this. I'm not an expert. Objectively, people need to remember that just because the generals in the audience didn't immediately stand up and cheer, it doesn't necessarily mean they're doing any kind of protest. That is par for the course when you get a speech from the big guy of this level, right? You're not there to fill out the crowd with applause on a Netflix special. You're there to listen to the information, figure out what the mission is, and do your best not to screw up.
Yeah.
But the question becomes, if they're asking you to do things that are genuinely against the mission of the United States, how do you respond? If you're smart enough that you have ascended to the role of general, which is crazy to get there in the first place, then you're already smart enough to take a moment and collect your thoughts. Now, there might have been somebody in the back who was like, but that guy is probably also smart enough not to even say that under his breath. He's waiting until he gets back to his place, and then he's going to pour a stiff drink and,
turn on the radio really loud,
turn on the shower, check the devices. You can't remove them because that'll be suspicious. And then he'll just scream into his scream pillow for a second. That is the reality. And the reason this is dangerous, and it's okay to call it alarmist, the reason this is dangerous is because, performative as it may be, it sends serious conspiratorial signals to anyone who is a student of history. Everything is precedent. I keep saying that now. Authoritarianism, similar to fascism, is measured in terms of tactics, right? Mm-hmm. Not in terms of definitions. So you don't look necessarily at what people are saying at this level. You look more at their actions and what they're doing. And what they're doing is arguably, to a lot of critics, against the mission of the United States.
Well, they're at least messaging it very publicly, right? To an audience of captive heads of military. I think about it also on the heels of what we talked about on Strange News last time, where there was the push by the Pentagon to say, hey, journalists, you cannot report on anything that is not directly approved by the Pentagon.
Right, without explaining the channels of approval.
Yeah.
Which also makes it a trap, just to be completely honest, because I'd like to share something I've referenced in the past. This is one that a lot of our veteran friends will recognize. And it's a true story. They used to say in the Pentagon, I'm not sure who was joking or who was serious when they said this, but they used to say, we never lie. The truth changes, which is just peak cognitive parkour. Whoever worked on that one is evil and probably really fun to hang out with, actually.
God, I don't know.
I mean, okay, hang out with for an hour.
Yeah, say hi to at the
Kick
bar.
It, grab some juice, get a coffee, and then set your timer so you can exfiltrate.
Take a dip in the hot tub with a couple of brews. All right, Pete? Hey, all right. Let's do that. Right. Anyway.
Classic Petey.
I don't have much more to this, Ben, besides just I think it is worth us really paying attention. Just pay attention. That's all. Because there's never going to be one big announcement. Hey, guys, it's Orwell time. It's going to be these little tiny movements that push us closer and closer to whatever that thing is.
Yeah. And by the time something like that happens, historically, when things go down, these incremental erosion of checks and balances sort of structures, historically what happens is you wake up one day and you've always been at war with Eurasia. You've always been at war with East Asia or Oceania, and whatever just happened is going to be messaged as though it was always this way. And people be afraid to speak up. I do have a conspiratorial thing. There's no rabbit hole too far ever since we've started this show. Matt Dillon, I don't know if you guys have heard, but it turns out the commander-in-chief making that recent speech that has garnered so much controversy and interest might not actually be the president at all.
I'm sorry?
What?
Yep. Guys, this goes to returning guest of the show, the QAnon shaman, none other than Jacob Chansley, who has recently sued Donald Trump personally for $40 trillion. And he claims he is the rightful president of the United States.
Oh.
Cue sad trombone horns.
Yeah, please do that.
Do that and keep the part where you said that, Dylan. Okay, it's a 26-page complaint. It's all one paragraph, and it reads like a manifesto. You can learn about this from some excellent work by T.J. LaHoureux in the Phoenix New Times. And in this complaint, Chansley, the shaman, says, my First, Fourth, and Second Amendment rights have been violated. I'm suing, not just Donald Trump, but also the Federal Reserve, the NSA, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the Bank of International Settlements, the entire nation of Israel.
What about the Council on Foreign Relations, dude?
He skipped over them. I think that's a separate one. I know you missed that one, bud. T-Mobile, Twitter,
T-Mobile,
DARPA, and Warner Brothers.
That's amazing. Oh.
He said there's
a
conspiracy.
That's so.
He said it's a conspiracy. Yeah.
It's just, oh man, it's quite amusing, I would say. Yes, that's where that's very amusing.
He also did previously, of course, get pardoned by the administration after some shenanigans in DC back on January 6th, a few years ago, and he no longer gets on with the current president of the United States. I love weird literature, man. I think we both do. So if you're looking for something interesting to read, pull up the complaint of the QAnon shaman, who, per him, might be the actual president.
You know what they're doing? You know what QAnon shaman is doing? Mm-hmm. He's reawakening the warrior spirit.
Ah, yes. Yeah. He's big into that.
Yeah.
And speaking of spirits, we should probably take a break for a word from our sponsors and get to something that has been fascinating and terrifying for a while. A story that we're going to call Peter and the Antichrist.
Another Pete.
But not the way you think. And we have returned. Sort of like a evil supernatural creature in a fairy tale, you know? We're the ones coming up late to the party and saying, I have a gift for the child. We have one more gift for you, folks. It concerns a guy that a lot of people aren't too familiar with. You've heard the name. You might not know too much about him because you're not as bubbled into conspiracy rabbit holes as we are. But there's a guy named Peter Andreas Theil. He is a co-founder of PayPal, co-founder of Palantir Technologies. Yes, named after the evil magic balls in Lord of the Rings. We talked about Palantir more and more often. He was the first outside investor in Facebook. And he has become so wealthy that no one's really checking on Pete.
Okay.
No one's coming in and saying, hey, man, are you all right? Do you need some orange slices, or do you need a nap or something? He has gone on what people are calling an Armageddon speaking tour. And it's about his obsession with the Antichrist from biblical lore and how that meshes with technological innovation.
What?
Yeah, that's what I said too.
Are we talking about bringing about an Antichrist with technology or preventing an Antichrist with technology?
All right, this is so weird. Okay, we got to start at the beginning.
Okay,
This will probably be an episode in the future. Again, assuming things don't burn down, because this is going to be a deep exploration we can't get all the way into. The story really starts with a guy named Carl Schmitt. Carl Schmitt is a German jurist, political theorist. He hates liberalism. He hates democracy. He loved Nazis. And he was very active in the Nazi Party. So years and years ago, like 3 decades gone now, old Pete is looking for answers, right? Looking to explain the world around him and how he should feel about it and what he should do as a result. So he talks to a Austrian theologian, not Carl Schmitt. He talks to an Austrian theologian who's kind of a peacenik. He likes peace. He likes the idea of a world without war. And he says, Pete, you got to remember, there's a lot of crazy thoughts out there. And he hips Pete to the theories of this other guy, Carl Schmitt, the Nazi. And things kind of go wrong because when Pete learns about Carl Schmitt, it's supposed to be a cautionary tale. He doesn't get the message. Yeah. Or he takes the message, he's like, oh, this is great. This Carl guy makes total sense.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Pete goes on a mission to spread what he sees as the gospel of this. He is a devout Christian. And of course, we're huge supporters of anybody's spiritual beliefs, as long as you're not hurting anybody else or trying to make them do stuff they don't want to do, then go with God. But he is pushing his particular, critics will say, he's pushing his particular interpretation of biblical lore into the world with real dangerous consequences. He's invested in all these defense and weapons technology companies as well. And he's literally traveling around doing a sold out series of lectures on the biblical Antichrist, organized through a group called Acts 17 Collective. And Acts itself is an initialism. It stands for Acknowledging Christ in Technology and Society. The talks are supposed to be off the record, but things have leaked just because of the tenor and the content of what he's saying. His argument is that because the secular world is increasingly concerned about existential threats, now is the time for the Antichrist to rise to power. And the Antichrist will rise to power by championing regulation of technological progress.
What?
Yeah. So he's saying if we keep all these dumb regulations and these pesky laws, the Antichrist is on the way.
Maybe. Okay.
But it's difficult. It's difficult to your question there. It took me a second to get to it. It's kind of difficult for me to figure out if he wants that to happen. Like, does he want an Antichrist? Does he not want it?
He wants to prevent it. That's what I'm getting, at least. He wants to prevent the rise of the Antichrist.
I don't know, not to editorialize too much, but just to jump in. It's amazing when these people, their intentions are just so transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there is some window dressing that he was a little chintzy on, to be honest. You could have tarted it up a little bit more.
Yeah, but I'm so confused by the prospect of it. And maybe it's just because of maybe personal thoughts on concepts of the Antichrist. My thinking on it, based on everything I have read in the past about it, is that the Antichrist would be someone that unites everyone somehow in this weird way, which makes me think of technology, which makes me think, all these rumors about 666 and barcodes back in the day, and
sure.
Concepts of implants that we would all get, or some kind of tattoo that would
Mark of the Beast interpretations, yeah.
Oh, and that all speaks to technological innovation to me. But then he's saying that the Antichrist would be anti-innovation, anti-technology, to hold it back.
Right, because it's inherently contradictory. And I hear you guys on that. The reason I'm saying it's tough to suss out what the ultimate proposed goal is because for a certain demographic of followers of Christianity, the idea of bringing about the end of the world is a goal, is aspirational, right? This is what, because then you will ultimately have revelations occur, right? The return of the Christ, and then the separation of the real good guys and the real bad guys, and heaven comes after a couple complications. That's why it's always difficult to say, what do you think at this moment when I hear these folks talking? So without my opinion or anything, let's give you a direct quote from some of Theil's earlier statements. He gives a summary of his sort of mission statement or his thesis, the kind of stuff he talks about in these closed-door lectures, which are quite popular, by the way. He says, quote, "The way the Antichrist would take over the world is you talk about Armageddon nonstop. You talk about existential risk nonstop, and this is what you need to regulate. The thing that has political resonance is this. We need to stop science. We need to just say stop to this. And this is where, in the 17th century, I can imagine a Dr. Strangelove, Edward Teller type person taking over the world. In our world, it's far more likely to be Greta Thunberg." Yeah, my calves hurt from that logical leap there at the end. So it seems like he's saying, again, regulation, not letting big tech companies do what they want, or asking for ethics in AI, or making some kind of laws protecting resources like water, for instance, that is leading to a totalitarian government which will be run by the enemy of Jesus Christ, the Antichrist. Do you see what I'm saying about how, like, nobody checks in on this guy?
Yeah. Is Pete here saying that it's the current administration, like the current president, or somebody in the future? Or is it one of those things where we can't know? We don't know yet.
Yeah, he's leaving that part open.
Okay.
Except for when he walks way down the street to throw shade at Greta Thunberg.
Is this the right time to mention that Peter Thiel, along with Steve Bannon and Elon Musk, were all mentioned in recent Epstein estate releases?
This is the perfect time. And we, oh man, I'm so jaded now because every news story or weird development I learn about that in any way touches the Epstein debacle, I have to fight so hard not to dismiss it as a distraction.
Yeah, but it's also, aren't there further distractions from the Epstein stuff? So it's like something happens, distraction with Epstein. Oh, now we got to distract from the Epstein files. Oh, now we got to distract from this. But it is this endless stream of consciousness, weird stuff that happens, and announcements. And I don't know. How can you tell what's a distraction, what's not, when there's so much crap?
Right. Yeah. And one person's distraction might be another person's most important development of the day, right? We have to realize, that everybody's reaction or perspective is going to be unique, but it is also going to be programmable and easily influenced. What I'm seeing here, and what we'll get into, I think, because Peter Thiel's just such a fascinating character and a parable. What I'm seeing is an attack on the concept of being a Luddite, an attack on the concept of technophobia, we could call it. And there is some righteous validity to that, because right now, with the state the human world is in, technology is either going to be the thing that saves civilization or the thing that absolutely wrecks it. And maybe both at the same time. But the thing is, the way that this guy is arguing in favor of technocracy is still folding in some really crazy, far afield versions of capitalism. Like hyper-capitalism. Don't stop me. I got to do what I want.
Well, yeah. He is backing this thing called Plasma One, which is a, quote, stable coin native neobank and card, which was just announced, where you can use your card in over 150 countries at over 150 million merchants. It's a new stable coin called Plasma. I don't know. That's a big announcement that's kind of gone under the radar for my news feed, at least.
I bet you that Chinese con artist we talked about in the beginning already clocked stablecoin. I bet she's got eyes on it. She's got to move the money. Oh, another Antichrist potential candidate named by Thiel is my guy Nick Bostrom.
What?
Yeah, he said maybe people like this philosopher, Nick, the guy who wrote some papers that we both love.
Simulation theory, right?
Right, yeah. And in 2019, Nick got on Pete's bad list, or his Antichrist list, because he wrote a paper where he said, what if we create an emergency system of global governance, predictive policing, and some restrictions on technology, chiefly the technology we don't fully understand as a civilization.
Nick Bostrom said that?
Yeah. And Nick isn't the only voice in the room there, but to Pete, that is some very Antichrist vibe stuff, or Antichrist coded, as Noel would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, it's weird. I both love and hate that idea of some kind of global.
I know. You see why I'm too deep into this? It's making me even weirder hanging out with people. I am trying to do small talk so hard and so unsuccessfully at this point in time.
Yeah. I didn't even realize the Future of Humanity Institute got closed down last year. That's Nick Bostrom's thing. I had no idea.
Oh, man. I hadn't heard that news. I hate that I had to learn that on air. Oh, it feels like a bad sign. Doesn't feel great, Matt. Doesn't feel great. Because the idea here then is Pete saying humanity has to avoid technological disaster, whatever shape that might take for you or for him. And at the same time, it has to apparently, I'm not sure, again, how to parse this, it has to avoid the rise and reign of the biblical Antichrist, but maybe he wants that to happen to bring about the end of days. What is his schedule like? What does he do after lunch? You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's spending too much time in that new bunker he's probably built, you know?
It's Charlie Day and the board all over again.
There it is. Yeah. Yep. I think every billionaire, I know we're very ambivalent and internally troubled about regulation as a concept, but I think we should make a law where every billionaire has sort of a Lebowski-esque sidekick that hangs out. They're not employed by them. They get their payment from the government or whatever. They're not active in policy. Their job is to be the guy who, I don't care if they're smoking cannabis. Their job is to be the guy who has a beer or hits a bong whenever the billionaire is saying something crazy and just diplomatically lets them know they're saying crazy.
Yeah. I love that. I absolutely love that.
I think it'd be cool because now I'm picturing like a Elon Musk character going up to a podium and making a speech, and behind him there's a guy with a white Russian, would be too on the nose. So let's say he's got just like a Michelob Ultra. And partway through the speech, he just goes, and he takes a sip and he's like, "Elon, you're crazy for this one, dog." And he does it by the podium. I don't know.
I just like it in the living room or wherever the billionaire is just hanging out, having their thoughts, and they just say some of those thoughts out loud, and purposefully that other person just goes, "What are you talking about, man? That's not how that goes." Or
just, "Are you okay? Yeah. Do you want to go hang out at the planetarium or something?"
Yeah, that's nice.
The planetarium's awesome. If you have a planetarium in your neck of the global woods, you should go while it's still open, depending on how it gets funded. Also, in one of these speeches that we saw, there's an excellent long read from the big story over at Wired about this. Please check it out, The Real Stakes and Real Story of Peter Thiel's Antichrist Obsession. This is excellent work by Laura Bullard. And one of my favorite quotes coming from the article's description of the aftermath of his keynote speech. Quote, "When Thiel was finished, a moderator kicked off the QA session by noting in so many words that this speech had been a huge bummer. If the world is hurtling toward an apocalyptic crisis, he asked, what might this billionaire suggest we do?" End quote. Apparently, Thiel said, "I'm not really in the business of offering practical advice."
Oh.
Which is a weird thing to throw at the end.
I'm just the messenger, just divinely inspired.
He's like, "I'm just, vibing out here, guys. And everybody I've met has told me my ideas are awesome."
Billionaires are not immune to that thing that's been happening with chatbot interactions.
Oh, yeah,
and
100%.
I do wonder if there could be something else going on there where, having a conversation or two goes a little too deep and oh, you've got to tell the world, Peter.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Here's an action plan.
What I love about this is how right you are. The issue there, I think, is, I mean, it's common. We will say that just because we have serious questions and fascination and confusion about this guy's stances or his statements, that doesn't mean he's not intelligent, right? Incredibly intelligent people say incredibly crazy stuff constantly.
Yeah, well, often intelligence is associated very closely with what would be considered insanity, right? I mean, and that's how it's always been, because when you know enough things or you make connections at a high enough level, then you're probably not just okay with how things are going, no matter where you are, no matter when it is. You're probably not cool with everything. And it might make you seem a little wackadoo to everybody else. That makes sense. I get that.
Yeah.
But also, this is out there for me.
Yeah. You need a guy. I don't know. It doesn't matter if it's a beer or a drug or something. I feel like it should be some kind of snack, like some kind of prop in your hand. You know, like a guy who just opens a bag of those little BS bags of Sun Chips that you get on
the
an
loud
airplane.
ones.
Yeah, he opens those and he's just like, Pete, man, you're crazy.
You're crazy, Pete.
And then he offers him some Sun Chips so it doesn't sting as bad. One more Pete quote. He was 3 years after the events of September 11th, he went to speak at a conference with the theme being politics in the apocalypse. And he said the following, quote, "The brute facts of September 11th demand a re-examination of the foundations of modern politics." Ding, ding, ding. Little Dugan Easter egg there. And he says, "Today, mere self-preservation forces all of us to look at the world anew, to think strange new thoughts, and thereby to awaken from that very long and profitable period of intellectual slumber and amnesia that is so misleadingly called the Enlightenment."
Whoa.
So wait, like, you're mad at the Enlightenment?
Peter, you're crazy, man.
Hey, there's the guy.
There it is. Dylan, you would be perfect for
New
this.
job.
I bet the snack budget would be huge. Can I recommend one thing that listeners look up if they're interested in the Antichrist more?
Yeah.
It's the concept of preterism and Emperor Nero, and that it's already happened.
Okay. Because we've seen multiple people be accused of being the Antichrist at multiple times, right?
Yeah, and there's there are Christians who believe it has come to pass already.
Oh, amazing. Thank you for that,
aware
Dylan.
of that part. Yeah. Thanks, Tennessee.
And I want to add one more thing, too, just because we hit 9/11 there and made me think about Saudi Arabia and made me think about electronic arts that's being purchased in part by the Saudi Arabian sovereign fund that we discussed before on this show.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun.
Shout out Jay Cush. Boy's wild for that one. He needs a sidekick, a snack kick too. We'll call them snack kicks. You get, after a certain amount of money and power, you get assigned a snack kick. And they hang out. The snack budget's wild, but it's an investment in the future. He also says stuff that is strident and opinionated, and there's nothing wrong with opinions or with disagreeing with people, but it is troubling to hear somebody at his level of power say things like, quote, "A direct path forward, technological progress, is prevented by America's constitutional machinery. We should have a worldwide surveillance network instead of the United Nations filled with interminable and inconclusive parliamentary debates that resemble Shakespearean tales told by idiots. Instead, we should consider the secret coordination of all the world's intelligence services as the decisive path to a truly global Pax Americana."
What?
Come on, man. He also says this superorganism of surveillance could act as, quote, "a political framework that operates outside the checks and balances of representative democracy." So he's coming in, he's like, the Antichrist is real. Forget democracy. It's BS. The Enlightenment is whack. I hate Greta Thunberg. I hope he starts the speech with, "First off, that's the best way to start a wild rant."
It feels like a similar shared version that we've been hearing about folks who are up at the upper echelons of some of this AI bubble that's happening right now, and people who truly, really want to become more than human, like personally want that, and believe that is our destiny, and believe that that's the way, what we should all want. And that's pretty scary to me, man.
I think it should be pretty frightening to everyone, which is why we are going to do an episode on this in the future. Folks, we're running long because there was so much to get to. We hope this program finds you well. We hope you're having grand adventures. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks to our super producer, Dylan, the Tennessee pal, Fagan, and let us know your thoughts. Find us online. Give us a call. Find us on an email.
We have a phone number. It is 1-833-STDWYTK. It's a voicemail. When you call in, give yourself a cool nickname and let us know if we can use your name and message on the air. Here's a quick quote from Jared Kushner, CEO of Affinity Partners, who is jointly acquiring EA. Quote, I've admired EA's ability to create iconic, lasting experiences, and as someone who grew up playing their games and now enjoys them with his kids, I couldn't be more excited about what's ahead. Hey, you want to send us an email? You can do that. We are
the entities that read each piece of correspondence we receive. Be well aware, yet unafraid. Sometimes the void writes back. If you want to learn more about what's called game washing now, the story that Matt was referencing, check out the recent episode of the Daily Zeitgeist, where Jack and Miles dive deep into the story, and also check out our earlier episode on Live Golf and the concept of sports washing. Conspiracy at iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.